Hi everyone, hope you're having an awesome day. So today we're going to cover off a hardware ordering app that I've put together. It was actually one of the very first apps I created and modified. I remember watching a video from Shane Young, he had a shopping basket tutorial, so I've just taken that and modified it for my own needs. So I'll take you through how the app works and then we'll dive into the detail around how we've actually configured it. I'm quickly going to demonstrate my app to you. So let's pretend this is a mobile phone. I'm just demonstrating it through my browser for ease of use in this instance. So this is my home page. I'm going to click on Order Hardware. Basically this is a gallery that's pulling data from a SharePoint list in the back end. So in my SharePoint list I just have all my hardware items listed in there, whether it's a desktop, a mobile phone or peripheral, and this gallery pulls from that SharePoint list, and these buttons basically just filter. So this only filters the computer items in the list, and I can browse down. This one will just filter for mobile phones, and this one for peripherals and so on. So let's pretend that we need to order some computers. Let's order 2 computers, add, and a mobile phone. Let's say 2 mobile phones. There we go. Add it to my basket. Right, so I've got 2 groups of items in there, and I can go to checkout. So over here, basically what the previous screen did was it created a collection in my Power App with the details of the items that I'd ordered, and then this is a gallery of the collection. So in here in my collection you can see I've ordered 2 high performance desktops and a standard Samsung mobile ×2. I could delete these from here. Let's say I'm happy with that, so I'll finalize the request, and here's today's date. Do I have manager's approval? Yes. Hardware, I need the hardware by, let's say, by Monday the 22nd. What's the reason for my request? Let's say I've got new starters, and then if I want to enter the names of the staff I'm ordering for. Now I could have had this where it would look up in the directory, but because it may be for new starters who haven't been added yet, or it's just left this as freeform. So go logs. Right, next. Which office? So if I've got multiple offices around the world, I can just select which one it is. Let's pretend it's London. Any additional notes for this one, and then I click on my hardware request. So what it does when I click on that hardware request, it creates, it patches that information into a SharePoint list, and then when that SharePoint list a new row is added, it kicks off a flow, and that flow then takes that information, requests an approval, and then once it's approved it then submits that order to the service desk for execution. Hi guys, hope you're enjoying the video and hope you're learning something. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel below. It really does help the channel out. Thanks very much. So I fired up the IT ordering app in Power Apps Studio. So here we have it open. This is just a very basic welcome screen that we have. It's got 2 buttons, one to click on Order Hardware, which basically initiates the next screen. Over here we've got Navigate to the computer list screen. So here's the computer list screen. What we have here is a screen that has a gallery in it and a few buttons. So the gallery pulls data from a SharePoint list, which is this list in the back end, and it's this catalog. So basically this is all the hardware we have available, and that's what is in this list, although it is filtered. Over here you can see if either it's a computer or a phone or a webcam. So you can see they'll match up with these over here. So depending on which one I click on these, it will just filter to that. So if I click on mobile phones, then you can see it's just only brings back the mobile phones. I'll show you how that works. So if you've looked at my previous videos, you would know how to add in a data source. So over here, this is the SharePoint backend that we've already added. These are collections which are actually in the Power App, and I've also explained these in the previous video. For some reason it's showing more than one of these connections, so that's not to worry about that. So let's go back here and see how this works. So on the computer screen list we have our gallery, and the gallery is just set to var1. So var1 is what is being presented in there. And if we go back to the full screen and we click on each of these buttons, we can actually see we use an update context var1, which is the variable, and basically whatever the filter is for this particular one. So we want this SharePoint list, which is the catalog, laptop, desktops and screens, but we're filtering it to where the category.value is equal to computers. So category.value is equal to computers over there, and that will then become var1, this filter command, and therefore var1 is the gallery. Remember going here, it's just var1. So whatever var1 is will show in the gallery, and var1 is set by each of these buttons. So this just filters by computers, this filters by phones, this filters by webcams and headsets. Just a tip, just remember, whenever you're using SharePoint, whatever you do, don't leave spaces and headings, column headings. Always remember that, no spaces, otherwise it's just going to make your life more difficult later down the line. Okay, so that's simple enough. And we're able to select an item from within the gallery by clicking on this button, and basically I'll show you the slider, but that's in the next screen. It basically just resets it, and it navigates to the next screen. So let's go to the next screen, which is the screen details. So what this does is whatever item we clicked on in the previous gallery, it brings up a more detailed screen of what that is. So basically, again, it's just referring to this list, all the information in here, but just providing more than in the other screen on that. I've also added in some custom labels in here. So this, I've just said, well, I don't want to have the management overhead of tallying up costs for each different office. So basically I've just said for the more expensive regions there's going to be a cost differential of around 20% of the standard price. Okay, so and that's good enough for what I'm using it for. And then we have this, which basically we have the slider, which has a default value of 1, and it can go up to 10 over here. You can see the properties. Always look at the properties on the right hand side. The slider is just inserted by input function here. There's slider, and then you can set all the values of that on the right. So I've just said they can order between 1 and 10 devices, and what this does here is it says take the quantity of the slider and then multiply it by the gallery's item, the selected item cost, which is this value over here. Okay, and in here this is just formatting. Okay, it's just pretty basic stuff around the gallery, and formatted into EU format or UK. Okay, so this is just the value of the slider times the cost, and that gives me my subtotal, and I can just scroll that up and you can see it automatically calculates. And then once I've finished here, I click on add to basket, check on that button. What does it do? It basically creates a collection, which is memory within the app itself, and it just adds everything up that we've selected. So it creates a column in the memory of item type, which is the gallery, what I've selected. So this here, mobile Samsung standard. The item spec is the specification. It'll just add whatever this is here. So Samsung Galaxy S10 standard size. Item cost, it'll basically go the selected cost, and then so 5,000, then it'll also store in the quantity I've added, so 2, and then it'll also store in the who I am, so the registered user, and then it'll go back to the previous screen and then have that stored in memory. Okay, so let's go back to the details screen. Sorry, let's go back to the list screen. And then what this does here is, actually let me just show you the collection. So this collection, that shopping cart, all the devices that I add, and when it takes you to the more detailed screen and the slider, every time I click add to basket, it will add a row in here, and you can see the item cost. These columns match up what I was creating in the collection command. Okay, and it'll just map the quantities and details into this table. Okay, and then I could order multiple items, and it'll create multiple rows, and each row that's in there, it'll up this items in the basket, and it's not actually individual items, it's more orders per, like if I ordered 2 desktops, that would only have 1 row in there, so it'll just be 1 row. So there's maybe some improvements that could be made in that space, but for now it's fine for what I need it for. Okay, so hopefully you understand how that works, and it's creating those items in memory, and then when I go to checkout, this button here, it basically navigates to my basket screen. So if I roll down to my basket screen over here, in my basket screen I have another collection, and this time the collection is the source, my shopping cart, which is my collection over here. So shopping cart, everything that's in here in my shopping cart in memory is going to be showed and displayed in this gallery window here, and you can see I've got nothing in there at the moment, but if I did, everything that would be in there would be here. And if I collect on this, it would basically, that row within that memory item table, it would just delete that item in there. So it's fairly simple, but really clever how that works. And then I can collect on finalize once I've chosen everything I need, and the finalize button will just take me to my final info gather screen, which is over here. And basically what this screen does is just gathers some information. So I've just added in some drop-down lists. They aren't directly mapped to a SharePoint list at this stage. So basically what I'm doing here, now I could do it a different way, but what I've chosen to do here is I just collect this information into a collection in memory, and then once it's completed, I patch that memory table into a SharePoint list, and I'll show you how that works. So I've added a drop-down list here. It's just a yes or no, a date, collection, item here, reason, just another drop-down list with some custom items in there, and then just a free-form text box in here. And then the next button basically does another collection, which is adding all that information to a table in memory, and I'm going to call this one order info 1, manager approved, then just the value of this drop down box, ready by, so when must the order be ready by in that date box, the reason, just the value of this drop down box, and then the names of staff are just basically the values of this freeform text box over here. And then I'm also going to register the email address of whoever's got this app open. So Office 365 or Power Apps is clever enough to know who's logged in at that time. We'll store their email address, and then it will navigate to the final screen. So if I go to the final screen, and then finally we come to our finalized screen. So this captures a little bit more information. Now, bear in mind, this was the first app I've done, and I haven't actually implemented it in live yet. I'm still working on it, and I need to do a bit more work. So it wasn't the most efficient way that I've done it, but it's a bit of a learning process. So when I click on this button over here, basically what it does, just remember, if you remove formatting, this is how you would initially type it out, but it's always easier to read once you click on the format text button over there. So basically these additional 2 fields in there, I capture that into another table in memory, and that's called order info 2. So it's just those 2 values. It then navigates to the success screen, but then what it also does is it rolls up these 2 collections, order info 1, order info 2, basically adds them together into a new one here. So all the rows in here and rows in here are added together in one big table here, so it's just easier to patch. Now, I didn't need to do that, but as I said, you just learn as you go. I could have just done it actually directly into SharePoint or into the same collection, but I need to go back and fix that up. So this is the clear collection, the new collection roll up. Basically, I've just added all these columns in there, and they basically from my different shopping carts, and then added in the different columns in there. And then what I've done is the new collection roll up, so the final table in memory, I've just patched those to the hardware orders SharePoint list. If I go in here, I've got this hardware orders. So I'd created all the columns in there, and all those columns they match up with these columns in my collection over here. So these columns match up with the heading, basically the headings in my SharePoint list. Now I could have just referenced this table directly from the app, and that would have been easier, but I was just learning about patching for this example. Okay, so basically I'm patching, which basically takes a collection value and copies it into the SharePoint list. So each of these, one is the collection value, the other is the SharePoint list value, and it just basically writes them across. And then that's it for the app. So basically I've collected the data, I've referenced the options from a SharePoint list in the app. I then collected that data into collections in the Power Apps memory. At the end, I've written all those values into a different SharePoint list, and then I have a flow that kicks off whenever a new hardware order is added to the list. So this is the flow that's linked to my hardware ordering app. So when someone submits the flow, submits the request for new hardware and adds a line is added to the SharePoint list, it then kicks off this flow. And if I just expand this out, you can see my list name is my hardware orders list. So when a new item is created in that list, it kicks off the start of approval. So it basically goes, who's the approval for, and these are all dynamic variables linked into my SharePoint list. So these are all items that are stored in my SharePoint list. So please review the title, which is the hardware request for hardware for. So who's this hardware being purchased for? Now these are all items that have been captured from my app and stored in my SharePoint list, right? So you can see I've added in comments on each of those columns on what they're actually for, so it's easy to relate to in this flow. Assigned to, so if this is going to be assigned to a specific person, then we can put it in there, and this could be their manager, whoever the manager is. And the details of what it is, again, this is just drag and drop, put it in here, and then it'll just go, can you click here to review the request for details, and then the name of the person. Right, so then it comes back and goes, is the response approved or disapproved? And this will pick up in the table whether it's been approved, so that their manager will get an email in their inbox, and they'll either click approve or not approve. and if it's not approved, it will just inform the person who created the approval that it's been rejected. And if not, if it has been approved, then it will just send them an email, it's been approved, and then basically update the SharePoint item that has been approved, who's approved it, any comments they've left. Once the approval has taken place, we'll then send an email to our service desk, which service desk at whatever your company's name is, and then a summary of what's in the request. So basically, these are all the fields that are specific to the hardware they've ordered, and a link to the item in the SharePoint list, and that will go to the service desk. They'll know, I need this new hardware ordered by this date, delivery to this location, need it ready by this date, and then they can proceed with the order. So that's basically it. I know there's still a lot more to be done to make this as efficient and automated as possible. If you need any information around the details of the app, maybe I went too quickly or you didn't quite catch on, please feel free to drop me a message, and I'll be happy to share any details with you.